What up, my freaks? RuinouSinsight here with part 30 of my Total War Warhammer 3 modded Karl Franz Old World campaign. So as we saw last time, a couple of epic fights from defeat to victory for Marcus Wolfhart and Ernst Puttkamer. I'm still a little bit salty that the pistol army did not really fire off a single shot because of the no firing bug, but at the end of the day, once the armies are ready, they'll just split off and do their own thing, and there when we shouldn't, in theory, encounter the bug for them again. So we'll still get the pistols going, hopefully, and then they can get me going, and then everybody will be happy. Slaanesh giggle. Anyway, other than that, I'm sure there were other battles, but none could match those, so those were the important ones. The admin has been completed, and I'm pretty sure that we're able to just end the turn. I feel like I wanted to end the turn between... Oh, right. At the end of last episode, I said I might end the turn, and it's been a day and I forgot why, but I now remember that you... I don't know about whether the others would get attacked, but what I do know is that these guys will definitely sally out because they've got solid defenses, a tier 5 settlement, a full stack on top of that, and yeah, that means Theodric von Blitten will definitely be fighting. Let's give this guy a few points and let's end the turn, and then I presume we'll get this fight at least, and probably several others as well. What do we have here? Miscast base chance reduction. We could get the cooldown for spells, though... I'm not sure whether it's actually better than Sorcerer Shielding or Arcane Focus for that miscast-based chance reduction. We also have the Scouting, though our magic items are in a pretty good place. Admittedly, the melee defense isn't crazy useful for you. You do have Blinded, but your melee attack is so low that it's somewhat unlikely that you'll ever actually get the opportunity to use it, I wish I could see what the actual miscast base chance is, generally speaking. It says minus 28, but I'm not 100% sure that that's what it actually is. We have a 15 here. You know what? I'm not going to bother just counting. It feels like a waste of time. Miscast base chance. Yeah, well, let's do Sorcerer Shielding. I do occasionally send him into combat to get that very, very strong application of Blinded up and running. Anyway, I think that's it, and I'm not inclined to keep checking, so we're just going to end the turn and see what happens. Building upgrade available, damage building post available. I also feel like I didn't do Diplo, but we'll do it next turn. Go. Oh, I kind of wasn't expecting that one. It looks like the Nurglites will, in fact, sally out, but I'm glad that they will because I'd rather fight the massive piles of Nurglings and stuff in the field than obliterate them in mortars, with mortars, while they're in the enemy's settlement. The enemy does have 2 units of Beasts of Nurgle and a Great Unclean one to be concerned about, and whatever Nurglite annoyances the enemies can throw at us. Let's see how the Knights Panther do in their debut. Alrighty, here we go. Oh, the Grandmaster doesn't get a Panther cloak. Well, I guess only the mount and lance and stuff changes. But anyway, here we go. Debut of the Knights of Panther, the biggest knightly order in the Empire. We'll see how well they do here, as I think this is going to be an interesting and difficult fight, due to the fact that we have no magical damage whatsoever, no mage support, and the entire enemy army is made up of demons. And, of course, we have no range units to do anything with either. So, we're going to start the battle off by charging the Hounds of Decay on both sides of the map and destroying them, but otherwise just sort of annoying the enemy a little bit on the front while dropping mortar shells from our 2 war wagons on them, and then backing off with our main line, at least for now. After doing a little bit of damage to some of the enemy Furies and whatnot, though I think they clipped themselves with a Blight Boiler or something. Over on the right flank, however, we have a little bit more action happening as our Knights have charged in and through the piles of Nurglings, Forsaken, Furies, and I believe there was a unit of Exalted Plague Bearers here, though we didn't charge those guys yet. I'm gonna have to back off lest they use their range attacks on us. and it's the name of the game is Divide and Conquer. Going to try to do as much damage to any isolated units we can, and then back off as we do, because we can't really charge into the main line. We probably could do so if we had the additional charge bonuses offered by levels and of the heroes and the Lord, but we don't have those yet. Our Empire captains have not gone through their cavalry buffing tree, which is absolutely necessary if we're going to have an all-cavalry army like this. So we're just going to have to do the best that we can like this, a little bit of cycle charging, a little bit of kiting the enemy around, and once again, and destroying any isolated units. Also got to remember that the Knights Panther are a shock cavalry force, not a regular cav force, so we once again have to rely on using those lances to dish out damage. A little bit of help from the snow leopards and the, what's it called again? Oh, that's not great. The reason I wanted snow leopards in this army was because they have MAIM on them as their contact effect, but it looks like the Panther standard actually overwrites MAIM and gives them banish. That, I think, might not be so great now that I think about it, huh? Although, let's see, enabled if leadership is higher than broken. There's actually an interesting aspect to this that I had just thought of. If we take, for example, crossbows, we could put a single unit of Knights Panther in sort of around the crossbows and give them all banishment on their attacks, couldn't we? Huh. Yeah, we'll take a look at that. Might warrant a Knights Panther unit in our crossbow and ogres army, for example, or possibly one of our incoming armies as well. I hadn't considered using knights to buff range units, but it's an interesting concept, and there are several armies that would potentially warrant it. The handguns and all the various handgun variants actually, well, don't benefit from it because they have their own contact effects, but crossbows, I believe, don't. Huntsmen, I believe, don't either. And the banishment, while not anything crazy, isn't too bad of a contact effect. Reduction in physical resistance specifically being nice. The spell resistance is less relevant for now, but will eventually become more relevant as we get mages in here to help out. In fact, if the entire army has a banishment, it might actually warrant 2 mages in here. Spamming Flock of Doom, for example. I will think about it. Yeah, it's just unfortunate that the snow leopards lose MAIM, which is the main reason, I wanted them in here. But anyway, the battle continues. The bounce power remains at about maybe 60, 55% in our favor, only slightly, and we're engaged in a brawl with the enemies. We have now surrounded a big old blob here with at least some units and are charging into it from every direction we can. Our single entities are in the midst of this. They're going to try to work on bringing down those beasts of Nurgle, and by and large ignoring the big boys, the biggest boys, I guess, of the great unclean ones. I do like that there's a sort of lots of different sized units here. We got the tiny Nurglings, we got the units of plague bearers, then the beasts of Nurgle, and then the great unclean ones behind them. Pretty neat. But the battle yet continues, and by the looks of it will continue for a while yet. Those guys are stuck in a brawl. Our mortars have backed off and are annoying the enemy, though on the left flank we have nearly destroyed the 4 units that we were set against here. Though we can see we got 30 kills and 12,000 damage on the Plague Bearers and 10,000 on the Forsaken, which are doing pretty well. Again, these are charging cav, not brawling cav. And even with devastating flanker and those charges, their charge bonus at 51 is a little bit low, but hopefully this battle will give us enough levels on our heroes to immediately move them through the knight buffing line. I mean, granted, each Empire captain will only give them 10% charge bonus, but still, every little bit counts. And do like the vibrant colors on the Knights Panther as well, looking pretty good. Maybe not so good when they go down, so now she giggle, but looks like they will have won on this flank, though it will have cost us a fair bit of damage. Actually, a shockingly even fight, or maybe not even shockingly, but appropriately even fight. 1 turn away from being able to access that Doom of Nagash, which we would have activated here. Now, funnily enough, the Doom of Nagash also confers banishment, but the magical damage that we could have applied here with charge would have been really nice. Alrighty, well, the battle continues. Periodically, individual units essentially move out of the formation and then charge again to try to re-up their charge bonus. You also have that warrior priest here, which is periodically activating his various buffs. Soulfire would be really helpful here as well, and the damage resistance buff, Shield of Faith. But again, we don't have access to them as yet. Eventually. Debut battles like this can tend to be the toughest for an army before they have everything set up, whether it be items or levels or veterancy and all that. But you gotta admit it does give a good fight. Alrighty, how we doing? Bounce power is still about 55% in our favor, though finally the enemy's right flank has collapsed to these units, though they suffered so much damage destroying them. It's not going to be easy to carry the day. Looks like the Crusader Wulfric Ergiger, our lord, has also started to book it on out of there, unfortunately having taken fairly severe damage. In fact, Snow Leopards and a couple of Knights Panther have also suffered severe damage, so it's time to back out of this main blob of enemies. The loss or the running away of the Lord also means that we no longer have access to stand your ground when we attack in a blob, and thus we'll have to change our tactics a little bit. The enemy is still blobbed up, but it doesn't mean we can't draw out a few units and isolate and destroy them. And since we can't really charge in a blob as well as we could previously when we had access to stand your ground, we're just going to have to, change it up. I'm going to speed this up a little bit as we back off and regroup. There we go. A unit of Forsaken is charging towards us, and we're going to take the time to make sure that they're knocked out of the picture. And then the other units are repositioning themselves. We've got a bunch of other damaged Knights Panther. A few of the Snow Leopards have come back, and we will reform and set up on two sides of the map. This should, in theory, divide the enemy force. Funnily enough, they would get a lot of benefit from Death Starring here, I think. Well, actually, to some degree only, because we also do have mortars dropping shells among them, though again, without magical damage. Anyway, the Knights Panther, those that survive, will wheel around and get ready to move away from these units and then perhaps charge some others. We got Nurglings out here. Nurglings going to be a lot more fragile and susceptible to charges than the Plague Bearers, especially the Exalted Plague Bearers, juggernauts as they are. There we go. Quick little charge through some Nurglings, send them flying, and then back off, as we won't want to be surrounded by them. And we certainly don't want to be getting hit by that Great Unclean One. The second Great Unclean One, if you're wondering where it is, was a summon from the Greater Gate of Nurgle used by the enemy Cultist of Nurgle, but at least it only has the one use. Alrighty. And wheeling around again, and well, wouldn't you look at that? Another unit of Nurglings is isolated, so we are absolutely taking advantage of our mobility in this particular army. Like fighting the dwarfs or like fighting the undead, the vast majority of the Nurglite forces are extremely slow. And since we have all cavalry, we'll make use of them. They are wavering? I don't know, man. They're demons, so they could be banished, but I don't know about wavering. Anyway, alrighty, there we go. Another charge into those isolated Nurglings, and similarly over on this side, we have an isolated unit of Exalted Plague Bearers. As we've already seen, it's rather tough to bring these guys down, so we're going to activate that Hammer of Sigmar, increasing our base weapon damage and melee attack. Although again, without magical damage, it's going to take a long time to bring these guys down. A unit of Exalted Plague Bearers has 21,000 HP, solid melee defenses, 25%, I guess 35% physical resistance, down to 25 thanks to banishment. Out of curiosity, we have 13,500 HP on a unit of knights, so yeah, not quite twice as much HP on the Plague Bearers, but a little over 1.5 times as much. We also lose a little bit of armor, and ooh, they use Plague of Nurgle and Poison on everybody here, eh? Plague of Nurgle from their range, and then Poison from their melee, which is not so great either. On the bright side, those isolated Nurglings have been destroyed, and these units are nearly out, though we can see the enemy Exalted, or not Exalted, the Great Unclean One, regular, not Exalted, approaching. We really don't want to get trapped between Exalted Plague Bearers and a Great Unclean One, however, so I think that necessitates charging the Great Unclean One with our least hurt unit of a Knight's Panther, which still have about half of their HP remaining, which are just going to block the Great Unclean One off. They are anti-large, our units, after all, and in fact, if the enemy had more large units and less piles of Plague Bearers, probably would have been better. But these guys are, I think they're suffering enough. Having to fight Nurgle in general. Alrighty, it does look like a decent bit of damage to the Great Unclean One, but we're going to have to back off lest we take too much damage. Now that the Exalted Plague Bearers are nearly done, we're going to back off, and especially before the Forsaken and other elements of the enemy army reach us. Again, gotta take advantage of that mobility. We'll speed up again as we withdraw and reposition the entire army. Mortar shells will continue annoying the enemy, but admittedly probably not doing too much in the way of damage. And now it would probably be even easier to fight this battle, you know, microing, I don't know, like 2 units. Well, more than 3 or 4 groups that I'm using here, but you know, it's all cavalry. They all move quite fast, and you got to group everybody up and limit how many you micro all at once. Especially considering that all of our units are severely damaged, so 1 unit of a Knights is going to have like 20 to 30 units rather than the 60, so it's better to combine them into multiple units. Anyway, finally we have the enemy Lord getting isolated with a unit of Plague Bearers admittedly, but what we will do is charge all of our heroes and not Lord, because he ran off the battlefield. 2 Snowcats or Snow Leopards, 2 Captains, and then 1 Warrior Priest. All will charge the enemy Lord and are looking to dish out as much damage to him as possible, while the Knight's Panther work on those Plague Bearers. And in the meantime, the other units will look to find additional isolated enemies and get a few more charges going. There we go. I love seeing those Nurglings flying. And attacking, admittedly. Nurglings are such a fun unit. Alright, and then immediately we're going to wheel around and charge into those Exalted Plague Bearers to do a little bit more damage. A, but B, to make sure that they're not firing those range attacks of theirs anymore, since they do a fair bit of damage. Second units come in to reinforce and charge into the rear of those Exalted Plague Bearers, which are now wavering. Got to get them melting away as fast as possible. All of our knights are fighting with slivers of HP, 10%, 50% of HP everywhere. Bounce of power remains in our favor, now at about 65%, though the enemy Lord has at last been defeated, having been cut down by the combination of our single entities here. Beautiful. Alright, we absolutely needed to do that, but we will now back off lest the Great Unclean One reach us, and the Cultist is here a little bit too late to help his master. On the less bright side, it looks like the 4 units of already severely damaged units of a Knight's Panther that charge the Forsaken are going to run away, as they were unable to defeat them. And we're going to back the rest of these off because we really don't want them routing. Fortunately, it's a rather decently sized map, and we're directly in the center of it, so any unit that doesn't decide to run all the way off the map, like the Lord did, should recover and get ready to fight again. Alrighty, 1 by 1, just need to destroy those units, but be careful, because, yeah, slivers of HP on everyone, definitely going to be a close fight, and I was having so much fun fighting this one. Maneuvering through the enemy units like this, or riding through the center so that these guys don't get attacked, while our other units attack the fragile units first, or any critical targets. But once again, we really do need a mage in here to help with the charges when our shock cavalry is forced into melee. Fortunately, our other knightly forces, whether it be the all-order knightly force, which will have all the various different types of knights, and thus a combination of shock cav, various different kinds of orders, regular cav, etc., etc. And then the stubborn bulls obviously can stay in combat because they're great weapons rather than lances. Last time I played Karl for the Knight's Panther, I believe I went halberds and the Knight's Panther, and then probably some range units as well, if I recall correctly. With the reasoning that we just use a massive amount of anti-large from everybody, and that was a quite strong army. We'll see how well this one does over the course of the battles that they get to fight. Anyway, the 2 Nurgling units that are isolated over on this side of the map have been destroyed. We are, unfortunately, though, nearly out of ammunition. I think we're down to 1 use of... no, 0 uses of munitions remaining, so this one is now completely dry, and 1 mortar must continue firing as it can. I'm going to speed this up a little bit once again as we wheel around the enemy army and essentially stand there menacingly, waiting for the enemies to move close to us, leaving some units isolated and allowing us to charge them again. Alright, back to work, Knights Panther. A little bit of Darwinism, whichever units will survive this battle will be worthy of continuing in this army. Taking a, taking a leaf from Malekith's book, I guess. Only the strong survive. Alrighty, and then on the other side of the map, another charge. And here we got Forsaken, which we've charged from various directions in order to force them to break as they suffer the morale shock and then shatter. Beautiful. 1 unit of Nurglings remains, 2 units of Plague Bearers remain. And though it looks like this one's pretty isolated as well, and is relatively low in leadership due to that continued fire from one of our units of mortars. And if you're wondering why these 4 haven't moved in a while, it's because A, they're our most hurt units, and B, because we were waiting for them to, not be winded and tired anymore. It's a lot of debuffs we get from that vigor loss, and the benefit here is that we can rest. Frankly, if we wanted to drag the battle out, it probably would have been beneficial to, draw it out a little bit more, make the enemy fight tired more often, and then us fight tired less often. But it's all good. Anyway, once again, going to get around. Would really like to separate that Great Unclean One from the Cultist and the Nurglings, and for now, that means charging into the running Forsaken, and then getting ready to move towards those other isolated Plague Bearers. There we go, there's the next charge. And even 1 unit with magical damage would have been so helpful here, and just to act as the tip of the spear. I probably should have popped a Lichbone Pennant into the army, now that I think about it, but all good. These guys are definitely going to be veterans after this particular fight. Alright, it looks like this unit of Plague Bearers is done, and then there was 1, as in 1 unit of Plague Bearers, 1 unit of Nurglings, 1 Cultist, and 1 Great Unclean One. Time to do the same thing, get ready to surround this unit of Plague Bearers who are getting a heal from Fecundity. Or we're getting a heal from Fecundity. Our war wagons are now also out of ammunition, so we're going to use them to charge through the enemy, disrupt their formation, and take a few hits for the damaged knights as well. And don't expect them to do damage, so we're only going to keep them here for a few seconds until the rest of the knights join in, and then we'll move them away so that they don't interfere with the fighting, as their mass could block the lances and other units from dishing out the damage. Alrighty, bounce power's at about 70% now. A really cool fight, you gotta admit. Very long fight, admittedly, as well. Wow, yeah, this has been going on, but definitely worth it in my opinion. Alright, Nurglings next, or possibly, yeah, there we go, charging through those Nurglings, while our heroes and our Snow Leopards, the 2 that remain on field, have found the enemy Cultist. That big old Great Unclean One, we are going to taunt with our units of War Wagons, which are just moving around very close to it, forcing it to give chase while we annihilate the Nurglings, and the Cultist and gets brought down as well. And soon there truly will be 1, not of every type of unit, but just that Great Unclean One. Damn, Snow Leopards are big. I mean, yeah, they're basically the size of horses. And man, this one Snow Leopard is just going out. This poor Cultist. I don't know what the other heroes are doing. Yeah, they're just kind of sitting there, just letting the Snow Leopard take care of this. Huh. There we go. I think they were attacking the other unit here, and then they stopped, and that's why the 1 Snow Leopard was going after it. Anyway, there we go, with the Cultists defeated and, in fact, destroyed, or torn to shreds. by the snow leopards. Only the great unclean one remains, and though it was a very, very close battle, the battle is ours. Slowly but surely, the great unclean one will begin melting away, thanks to demonic instability, though we could wait it out. We are obviously not going to. Going to finish what we started here, the last of the now extremely limited in number units of Knights Panther. They will not remember this day fondly, I think. All together will bring down the Great Unclean One, which of course spews out, amongst other things, a unit of Nurglings on top of everybody. And we'll have to bring those down as well, but fortunately with our heroes in the center of everything, they should be brought down rather quickly. It's still really unfortunate that we lose MAIM on the Snow Leopards. I might actually transfer them to another army since they lose it anyway. Transfer them to another army and where they can actually make use of it and replace them. I mean, obviously we could keep them away from the Knights Panther, but the original idea was to have them in the midst of the army. What if there's something else we could use that would be useful? I was about to say use like eagles or something, but then they would be... the bleed would get overwritten. I will give it some thought. Anyway, Pyrrhic victory and a very, very, very nice fight. Ooh, alrighty, there we go. Definitely a close call. Definitely could have gone either way and was a Pyrrhic victory either way. Probably one of my most favorite fights in the entire campaign, as we really had to work for the victory there. The physical resistance on the enemy demonic units, in consideration of the fact that the Knights Panther don't have magical attacks, meant that they struggled a fair bit against a lot of the enemy units. We did manage to survive, but just barely so. And it's battles like this and last episodes of battle, I guess, which, I don't know, makes it a little bit of a shame that people have a tendency to get bored of campaigns after about, I don't know, some number of episodes at this point in the late game, because in the late game is when you can start building silly armies like this that don't perform quite as well without balanced units, and it gives them some fantastic fights. But anyway, we will go for the casualty or punishment trade because the knights really need it. Order of the Jaguar with 39,000 damage, 47 on this one unit as well. 30, 30, 25, 49. Ooh, looks like you win. Second to last Knights Panther unit. Very nice. And a couple of the snowcats, the snow leopards rather, did very well as well. 19k and 15k damage. Lovely. All right, we are going to praise Sigmar. Oh, what do we have here? Oh, I kind of forgot about this one. It's mostly gobos, though. I think this one may be not interesting enough to warrant the actual fight, mostly because we got 2 stacks of undead going against a very similar army, our swordsman army, and this one, yeah, we'd win without any problems. It's just gobs. Auto-resolve. And... oh, okay, I was not expecting that. I assumed that they would be running from Elspeth rather than attacking her. I guess this is at least 2 stacks, though I don't see how the enemy stands any kind of chance here. I'd be tempted to auto-resolve, but it's been a couple of episodes since we've seen Elspeth and her army fight, so I'm willing to give the orcs and gobs a shot here. At least they have some more interesting units than just the pile of gobs that the other army did, and it's 2 stacks rather than the 1 go.
Before me I see a host of souls for the taking. But first, we must break their bodies and set their spirits free.
Alright, I don't know how much water that holds when it's greenskins we're considering, but anyway, as you can see, I decided to, rather than moving forward and destroying the first enemy army, as we often do when the enemy wants to wait for reinforcements, and we deployed all the way back to where our artillery did not fire. I actually think they might have been in range and I turned the firing on, but I guess it doesn't really matter. What matters is that the enemy has a greater chance if they move towards us. We also didn't move Elspeth ahead of everybody, such that she would normally dish out massive damage with her spells and her dragon. But again, we're going to give the enemy an actual chance to do something. That said, now that they're moving towards us with reinforcements, everything is fair game. Going to get that Carmine Dragon Breath on the enemy lord, who drops down to about 10% of HP following a Spirit Leech, and the rest of the enemy army starts moving towards us. We got the piles of known Ironsides, we've got the officers' squads and steam tanks firing away at the enemy as well. Steam tank actually moved forward, it was here, but once again, I think I mentioned this last episode, but they have this weird little bit about their animations where they occasionally will move forward to reposition. But all good. And there we go. A lovely little firing line. Looks like a unit of Boar Boys is heading towards us with a Fate of Bihuna on them as well. I don't think they're surviving any of these volleys, and certainly not getting close enough to reach the Wissenberg's Welcomers and their grenades. Of course, our artillery keep firing away, and the vast majority of the enemy reinforcements are fairly blobbed up, which means they're going to have a pretty bad time of it against the rocket batteries smashing into them. There we go. And this is one of those situations where it's beneficial, the fact that rocket batteries are fairly inaccurate. Well, not fairly, they're massively inaccurate. Anyway, Elspeth continues floating around or flying around annoying the enemy. We're getting plenty of range fire off an enemy whatever, but it does look like the Mangler Squigs and the Pump Wagons have finally closed the distance. Our two Empire Captains, which were floating overhead, have touched down and are moving to intercept, and of course the poor Pump Wagons will have no chance against the Steam Tank. Pump Wagons may be OP for their cost, but, the Steam Tanks are pretty overpowered as well, if incredibly expensive and light tier. I mean, these things cost like, what, 700 upkeep or something like that? But anyway, Thomas the Pain Engine is bringing the pain to those Pump Wagons, which are nearly out of the picture, and then Stormhammer is hammering down on them with a non-stop cannon fire, as the enemies seem to be unlikely to reach them. It does look like rather than allowing the enemy's fast movers to reach our line on the left flank, we do move the Knights of the Black Rose out to intercept, and it looks like the enemy army is pretty much done. Love seeing those repeater rifles fire. And gotta love Imperial gunnery. Ooh, though it does look like a few of them do take a few volleys from the enemy artillery piece. And yes, we could have destroyed the artillery piece, but sometimes I like to let them fire off the occasional shot. Alright, and it looks like the balance of power has shifted to about 90, maybe even 95% in our favor. A few more volleys, a few more orcs destroyed, a few more gobos torn to bits, and it looks like the enemy will turn. There we go. With that, the orc host shatters, and the battle is ours. They deserve this battle, as in this cinematic battle. They were given a chance. Frankly, they were given every chance, but anyway. But they did attack Elspeth rather than running away, which, gotta give credit to them. Again, it's orcs, and they're probably too dumb to realize that they shouldn't, but, on the other hand, it is the AI, so it normally would run away. So I'm happy we got the fight. I'm sure Elspeth is as well. Alright, there we go. The Pump Wagons and the Mangler Squigs at the very least managed to reach our battle lines, admittedly because we let them, but, they reached it nonetheless, so props to them, or their corpses. Anyway, a little bit of damage to us. I don't remember if we're in our own territory or not, so we'll praise Sigmar to heal ourselves up. Ooh, damage-wise, Farsight's 20,000, 24,000's on Hagen's Marksman. And slightly beaten by one of the unnamed Ironsides. Why? Oh, right. One of the other armies with Ironsides has them named. All right, fair enough. Praise Sigmar. Back in the Knights of the Black Rose didn't do too much in this battle. Anyway, praise Sigmar.
Our faith reinvigorated.
Alright, this was the one I was waiting for. Pyrrhic victory, casualties high. We'll have to contend with the Terrorgeist hex rates and a lot of decent stuff with a relatively weak army. Our weakest army. Would have been really nice to be able to get the Swords of Ulrich in here as well, instead of having to rely on tier 1 basic swords. But it is what it is, we'll just have to make do. Go. Alrighty, I tell Theodric not to get ahead of himself regarding victory being ours. Ooh, this lighting makes the Sigmar suns look absolutely magnificent with that color scheme. I love it. It's like this lighting was made for them. They've got the green for like the forests of their own, I don't know, shirts or whatever they're wearing underneath of their plate. Similar to the sky and all that. It's lovely is what I'm getting at. Anyway, the battle will begin and we will start annoying the enemy army with our units of war wagons. The enemy army is a 2 stacks, so we should be having a pretty good time of this. Especially considering this is one of, if not our weakest army. On the right side, though, we will have a little bit of action from our mage, slowing down the biggest portion of the enemy, specifically the crypt ghouls, so that they can't move towards us, all the while gunfire continues to, well, cut them down. Still, this is fighting the undead, and like fighting the Skaven, it's pretty much inevitable that they will reach our battle lines due to the sheer number of shambling zombies and whatever they have that are likely to reach us. Up in the sky, we've got a little bit of a duel happening as we've reached the enemy Terrorgeist with the Lord. Fortunately, the Terrorgeist is pretty severely debuffed. Roiling Skies drops his melee defense down to 0, and the Averland Runefang drops its melee attack similarly, while the stats of Theodric, thanks to that harmonic convergence upgraded, will allow him to break that bat relatively quickly. Interestingly enough, we've been trying to shadow the enemy Lord and Necromancer with our war wagons, but the enemy is wise to it, and is actually keeping them exactly out of range of the war wagons every time they try to move forward, and these guys back off. So I do appreciate the moves. Credit where it's due from the AI. As we could easily snipe those units if they were to get close. I do see a Banshee moving forward, however. Gotta be careful about that, but the enemy has not yet reached our lines. Once again, it's only a matter of time. On the bright side, getting plenty of work from our handgunners, Null Ironsides, and our Hawkland long rifles, which are appropriately hidden, well, maybe not quite hidden, but are right at the edge of the tree line. They do have woodsmen after all. Actually, no, they have snipe. Nope, steady aim. No, that's not what I was thinking of. Oh, hide forest was what I was thinking of. Not woodsman, not quite the same thing. But anyway, everybody else continues to fire. And the enemy is still drawing close, but probably not for too much longer. At least not in the center. The flanks are a different story, however. We've got lots and lots of units on the right flank and lots on the left flank as well. Our Lord has now defeated the enemy Terrorgeist and is now going after the enemy Lord, which, judging by that staff, is a Necrarch Lord. I didn't check, but I suppose it doesn't really matter. And it looks like the Necrarch has called Ghosties to help him out as a unit of Hex Wraiths charges out of the woods, and rather than going to move around our flanks, together with the other fast movers here, it decides to try to bail out their Lord. Going to have to back off the war wagons now, since the Black Knights are moving towards them. Guys, fire at the Black Knights, not at the skeletons. Come on, man. I've said it a million times before, but this game really needs to borrow the thing from Battlefleet Gothic, and I assume other games, where you can set priority targets for range. And set different priorities. It's a really good mechanic, and I find it weird that the game doesn't have it, especially for, I don't know, units like war wagons. But anyway, not that it matters over much, as the enemy will charge, but we have our great swords as usual protecting the flanks. The enemy will charge at them, but will take a massive amount of damage from the war wagons. Our wizard's still flying around on that Pegasus, dropping spells on the enemy where he may, and it looks like our Lord is doing a pretty good job, considering we've got him on another harmonic convergence upgraded. to kill off the enemy lord as well as all those hex rates. Enemies have finally more or less reached our battle lines, and it's time for the Empire swordsmen to go to work. Hopefully not too many will be lost to friendly fire. Guys, please stop killing your own men. This is why we leave gaps in the battle line, not for you to gun down your own guys. What's our armor at? It's at 65. Yeah, like I said, I did want 2 Empire captains in this army, and I probably will still get them. The main issue is that we don't have a nearby location where we can construct them or recruit them, but hopefully we'll get one soon. Anyway, more skeletons have arrived. We got some Karen rates that have moved in over in the center and over on the left flank, though on the left flank they've been destroyed at the cost of about half of the HP off of the great swords. The enemy hex rates, like the Karen rates, have nearly been destroyed, and though the enemy lord is running, we'll see how much longer he can run for. Not enough troops now to shadow us and prevent the war wagons from moving towards him, so they'll set out from the rest of the army and move towards sniping that enemy lord. Our mage has now dropped down from the sky to add that debuff to the enemy, blinding them and dropping their melee defense down to 0, which admittedly was relatively low. It looks like some Grave Guard have arrived over on the left flank, and enemy troops still moving on the left, but with the enemy running out of troops, generally speaking, they won't have critical mass to overrun our melee units, and thus they won't be able to... I see the doubling up on the Necrarch Lords is still around. That's such a weird bug. And you know what else is interesting? The Necrarch Lord that dies is a cloak, and then the second one does not. Huh. It's such a strange bug. It doesn't matter, but it does amuse me. And as somebody pointed out, yeah, you could probably expect the Necrarchs to be the ones doing some weird experimentation. Replacing your blood with Warpstone, or your need for blood with Warpstone as well. Probably just the tip of the iceberg. Anyway, it looks like with the fall of the enemy lord and the death of the enemy necromancer, thanks to a combination of the war wagons finally finding their aim and the griffin crushing the necromancer, it looks like the enemy army has begun to melt away. A few of the melee troops still fighting our swords, and we're going to drop an Uranon's Thunderbolt on them to speed them along into Mor's realm. I was just listening to the sound of the Uranon's Thunderbolt. I like the lightning sound design. Anyway, with that, the battle is ours. Apparently a close victory, and admittedly we did use, I guess, some ammunition, but otherwise I think we did pretty darn well. Fun fight! Alrighty, there we go. Not too bad at all of a battle. We got plenty of work out of our Celestial Wizard, which is nice. No Comet of Cassandora, unfortunately, but I think that we were better off using the Chain Lightnings and the buffs and debuffs and, well, and Wind Blasts and pretty much everything but Comet of Cassandora. But, well, clearly we didn't need it. Otherwise, good work for pretty much pretty much every single unit here did well. 20,000 damage on the Great Swords, which actually had the toughest portion of the fight because they got hit by the Black Knights, the dogs, and the... I want to say Karen rates? Yeah, Karen rates, because the Hex rates got it into their heads to attack the Theodric von Bluten, and of course with him having enough damage on that mount of his, they stood a little to no chance of actually defeating him. Mother's Ruin unfortunately doesn't have magical attacks, so might warrant a Lichbone Pennant. Again, I do wish that the Rune Fangs, the purple Rune Fangs, had magical damage on them, because it's silly that blue Rune Fangs are, by virtue of that, generally better, at least against certain factions. But anyway, end turns have certainly turned into a battle fest, being a late game, and, well, it's certainly not changed in this particular turn. Alrighty, there we go. No further attacks, a trait gain. Alright, everybody's gonna... Okay, there's gonna be a lot of these. I'm just gonna flip through them as fast as we can. Enemy killed in battle, and you had... Huh. Urson Revivalist hegemony? I don't think so. I just wanna... Let me just... strength rank. They are strength rank 7. Settlements 53. I don't think they're anywhere near our level. Actually 33 on the Great Orthodoxy. Yeah, I guess confederating the Ice Court really helped them out. 1,000 Maws are so surprisingly strong. War Host of Jar, 24 settlements. Nice. And Exiles of Neheg had more until Teclis forced us into a war with them. And still don't dislike us all that much despite that, but, well, there's not much we can do about it as long as they're continuing to fight Teclis for no reason. Teclis. Alrighty, anyway, Sacrifice to Mathan, Obsidian Trinket. No, well, it's actually not horrible, but we'll hopefully turn into something better. Scribe, Blizzard Peaks attained. Where is this? Oh, that's where we are right now. All right, switch to... I'm going to say switch to State Troop Levy because this is mountainous territory and we're going to trade it, but we also want to knock out the rest of these orcs here. Sky Titan String, Settlement Sacked Seepgore. Oh, right, that's whatever. That's whatever, and man, the armies from these two factions never stop attacking, do they? We really need to send another army up here because... Oh, hello, Valkia.
Executing.
Where are you going? Alright, well, we'll figure that out in a second. Withered Eye with something else. Wa fails, Clanfester destroyed, Settlement besieged, Kraka Ravensvok, and that's... Oh, how? Ah, you frickin' jerk faces. Ah, the rebel little army besieged us so he didn't heal. Of course. Ready for duty, Johan... Sure. Technology research, Doom of Nagashi. You know, that would have been really helpful for those Knights Panther. And the magical damage. Zenris received a plague. Oh no, it's spreading to our territories again. Alright, fine, we're gonna have to deplagonate. Sigmarite Dogma, please. Annoying though it may be. Actually, wait, right before we do we have Open the Gates? Ah, one more turn. I guess we could try to deplagonate next turn. I was just thinking we use Open the Gates to immediately get this up and running to the next tier, but now I think we need the Sigmarite Dogma, no choice. Also, we should pick our next tech, which we can do in one turn. And at one turn, I'm going to say let's do improved heavy weapons. Imperial Allegiance and damage reflection and melee defense for losing combat, which will help certain units out a fair bit, and it's for all melee infantry, so that will include the flagellants. The other option would be to ignore that for now and then go forward to Manorialism, which will get us that lovely Imperial tactics, though admittedly, 1/32nd use of a admittedly solid buff, but for one unit, this is faction-wide, so maybe this is no longer as good as it once was. Oh, this is quite nice, though. But we have like a dozen well, maybe not a dozen, but like half a dozen armies without mages in them, so yeah. Partly because they didn't need them, and partly because, well, it's gonna take a while to get to them. Anyway, we're gonna auto-resolve this because it's a waste of our time. It's gonna damage our main stack, which is a shame, but it is what it is. Enemy killed in battle. Hey, another Kislevites Kossar. Now, what do we have here at Grunsteckbert? Oh, actually a fairly decent pile of defenders. Alright, fine, I guess you're going to have to sit here and heal. Alright, well. Darn them. And too bad we can't get any heroes that are supposed to join the rest of the units in this army, but we'll deal with it later. Anyway, Karl, let's start from the top as we usually do. Nud Udricker, are you able to move towards Mammoth Boneyard, rather? Karl can reinforce and then start his way back up north towards the Demon Prince's territories, hopefully before he starts moving down here. Alright, you encircle. Karl reinforce. Probably could have popped you into regular stance, but I guess it doesn't matter over much. And then do this. Auto-resolve. Iron Curse Icon, occupy. Oh, lovely, and then don't collect the income, and then we'll trade the rest of these territories to the dwarves soonish. As soon as we're out of this territory, because we do want to take advantage of the fact that we can move further through our own territories. We'll go right to the edge of where the attrition starts, which is due to the Nurglite corruption here. I should also trade this away, or possibly even Inquisition it, which is in 2 turns. What else do we have here? We have Commendation, we have... Oh, Unify's back. Right. We could do Vesterland. They reached tier 5. I mean, they're not getting any more upgrades, and it's not like we're waiting on anything here. Yeah, we'll go for Westerland, because that'll be the last territory within the Empire proper that we'll want. It's not a major territory by any means, but might as well, why not? Electoral Machinations and Unify Westerland. Alright. Confederation ally loses outpost. Don't care. Alrighty, what do we have here? What stats do you have? Fearless, terrible. Do you have any items or anything? You have a ferryman. Take that off. Slaneshi giggle. And then delete this. And then delete yourself, or reset, because we might put you to use if it's needed. What are you? What do you have? You have Drill Sergeant. Ooh, you can be kept. We will start moving you down here.
Yes, my lord.
And what about you guys? Alright, so what do you have? You have Meridia's Blessing, and not good enough to keep, I think, but you can lose the items before we delete you. And then there's nothing interesting here. You have Tactician, but frankly, we can just delete all of this. Alright, goodbye. And then what do you have? Also nothing interesting. Any good warrior priests? A guardian one and a holy warrior. Don't care for either of those. What do you have? A champion. Alright, you can keep. Start sailing down the river. Alrighty, and oh, I wonder if we should have reset your points. Deadly Blade Train. You're fine. You're fine. But at the very least, I'm too lazy to do anything about it. What about you? Do you have any items? You do not. I did not check whether you guys did. At least this should be reasonably quick. Lose the ferryman, and then lose yourselves. Oh. Disband, disband, disband. Lovely. Alright, what do we have here? Klessen, I believe, was built by us. Council of Burgomeisters, collect the income. We do not need the walls here. We don't need the gunnery school. We can keep this. Oh, we can send the builder man down here to make some of the stuff cheaper. And delete this building. Keep the money, keep this, and... How many more spaces do we need? We have to build 1, 2, and then presumably a temple. That would be 3. Meaning we should delete another one of these. What's our Empire Captain capacity, I wonder? 35? It's actually fairly decent now, so I think we can delete it from here. Alrighty, and then where's the Builderman? Builderman? Where did... Oh, I sent you all the way up to Schlaghugel. Alright, well, that's unfortunate, because you've got a fairly long way to travel, but at least we know where you're going. Let's build the Wizard Campus and the Foundry here immediately. Oh! Actually, we could open the gates here and then build this immediately while the builder is here. Yeah, fine. Alright, you stay there, bud. I guess we're not going down there. At least not yet. Anyway, that was that amount of admin. What are we at here? Dolph, I guess you're gonna quickly kill off Mr. Odilo Skellen and then start moving back to deal with these guys and start moving back again to deal with those guys. Alright, kill this. Auto-resolve it. Don't trust it. Not with the war wagons.
For Sigmar and Varina.
And see, I talked about getting a follower army for this army to do the auto-resolves and stuff, and I didn't end up doing it, but clearly it would have been useful here with all of this going on. Anyway, you're gonna march stance, start moving up here, and this guy might sack Uskulak Dreng, but it is what it is if he does. Don't bother. Well, actually, build a shooting range here just to make this a little bit more expensive. I'm not going to touch Seepgor as yet. It's all going to go to our allies anyway, so it hardly matters. Gavin von Wolfen, you are looking to besiege Crookback Mountain, capital of Tretch. Let's see what he's got here. Not much, but we'll give him a chance to sally out. That is a tier 5 settlement with a lot of good stuff, so... certainly a fight worthy of fighting if they're willing to sally, and if they have another army running around to help them, even better. Alright, so that was Gavin. Jurgen, you... Okay, how are we doing out here, by the way? I still see Village, who unfortunately we cannot reach, eh? By the looks of it... we should at least be able to wipe out Wulfric, but I fear that we should probably go down here to the Pyramid of Burning Skulls to make sure that Lamont Dahl can't come back. Which means leaving Village to attack Nalheim and possibly Wrath of Galrock, but again, there's not much we can do about it. Can't leave another full stack down here after all. We will auto-resolve this, which will damage us. Maybe that'll make Village come down here instead, who knows. by virtue of us being damaged, and then occupy the place to heal up. Could have also possibly sacked it and gone here and tried to bait Village into attacking us, but by then, with another auto-resolve, it probably would have been... Oh, actually, that would have probably worked. Minus the fact that we would have been at half HP. Less than half HP. Either way. Dragonbane Gem we don't need here. Too bad it doesn't provide any kind of, you know, fire damage stat or fire debuff or anything like that. Waldemar Biber, ah yes. You have arrived on Albion, and you... Oh, I should move the Tech Thieves. Alright, Tech Thieves, that's you. Okay, I'm just gonna move these ones because we won't have the time to move them all here. Yeah. And it looks like the enemy decided not to attack these guys. Oh wow, you've taken Ness. Good for you. Steel Tech. Is that the last Tech Thief down here, or up here? I'm just going to assume it is. Anyway, you then, Mr. Waldemar, can proceed up towards Citadel of Lead and occupy that. Bellicor has a little enough stuff left. His garrison is severely damaged, and I think you should be able to auto-resolve it. These guys need to go back and heal, which is just fine. Auto-resolve this. Probably should have quick-saved it with those war wagons, but it looks like we're okay. And occupy. Lovely. Alright, and you got Bell of the Ball as well, which is nice, minus the fact that you don't have a... mage in your army. You're one of the ones that doesn't. We could always, again, replace these halberdiers with a mage. And I will continue thinking about it. Frankly, could use a little bit more armor on the spears as well, but anyway, and we'll deal with that later. For now, Ernst Puttkammer and... and Wolfhart. Wolfhart... Oh wow, you need to go right here, but keep channeling, and then I guess we'll put Ernst into Bolahat. Alright, then they'll take the turn to heal up. How are you healing? Reloot? Yeah, really reasonably well. Alright, there we go, and then you two can... Oh, I don't even know why I bothered to march stance. Yeah, you two can just sit there. Lovely, and you have recovered the troop that you lost by trading it from Ernst, who was going to get Pistoliers anyway. Oh, and actually, speaking of, you can have one noble sons abroad. Beautiful. Alright. Who's up next? Theodric von Blitten, you have just taken a settlement over. You... By the looks of it, just barely can't reach Xerexil, which is a bit unfortunate. So I guess you can grab Domatberg and then move back to it. You can't reach Bufdar either, or can you? No, you can't. Alright, fine. Go grab Domatberg. And hey, these guys have taken Elemento. Perfect. Perfect for us. I love it. Alrighty, because we're gonna do this. You're gonna take Elemento, or Domatberg rather, and it doesn't kill our war wagons, occupy. Beautiful. Then we will, well, obviously trade it away, so I'm going to ignore it. You, Baldric, and okay, I'm moving out of order again, but it is what it is. You're going to head down here. I would like to trade Urbimo for Elemento now.
You have a proposal?
Trade Urbimo for Elemento. Oh. Elemento's worth... Ah, you jerk faces. You absolute jerk faces, because they have that one training field. Alright, fine. Delete the building. Start building... I don't think we need to, but start building this. I mean, come on, it completes a 4-settlement province, it's got a guardhouse, a port, and this completes our province, and you won't do it just because it's... okay, well, we'll deal with it next turn, or actually the turn after next turn, because we still need to build a military structure. I don't think there's anything else that we can do about that right now. Yeah, oh well, not a big deal. Emil von Corden, while I have you, go for Kazad frickin' rather. Like so, out of resolve. Arm of Destiny, nice find. Maybe you can keep that. Assuming nobody else wanted it, or needed it. You can grab Carrick FX Filaz and go to Carrick Bufdar. We'll send Theodric to grab Xerexil, and then you can move towards the Orcs, or possibly this guy. Whoa, what? Oh, game is being ridiculous again. I'll do that between the episodes, assuming that I remember. We shall see. Anyway, I think this is probably going to be then a pretty good place to call it. There is a fair bit of admin that I'll do between the episodes, like the building, and mostly the hero moving, and possibly some recruiting as well. And then when we come back, we've got more battles like this. Should be 2 stacks against Blaskak the Wise with our Bretonnian army again, which should be fun. And, oh, before I forget, you should really grab this bronze gate. Oh wow, this This won't kill our cats. Okay, I don't trust you. Quick save. Quick save. Let's make sure that the cats don't die. Did you suffer attrition while here? Huh. And occupy. At least it's a green territory, so you should be healing fairly nicely. And you got a free apprentice wizard, but you just need to actually get your wizard in order to use the same said wizard. Anyway, as I said, we've got our new armies here, which are getting ready to move out and do their own thing. A fair bit of ground to cover all over this, but should make for some darn fun battles. I think we can send freely the Knights of Panther, considering they're anti-large units, to fight the ogres. A little bit of an advantage for them there, and we'll see how well they do. And we should also probably move down to the Black Pyramid, which, funnily enough, these guys do like us. We don't really care about this, but plus 50 wins of magic power reserve capacity is an insane buff. It's just that, well, it takes a fair bit of traveling to get it, and I guess Volki is going to be the one to do it with that army of Sigmar. Anyway, more Karl to come, though not too much more, as we, like I said, are rapidly moving towards the end of the campaign, so stay tuned. Don't forget to leave those likes and comments below, as they will determine the length of the same said campaign. All glory to the algorithm, and thanks for watching.